call the work session to order at, time is it?
Yeah, you got a speaker. Yeah, it's live streaming. You're good.
Call the work session to order at 3:03. Okay, we'll wait for Rita. So it's not really called to order.
Hey, Liz, talking to your microphone. Oh, okay.
You said here, I'll move. I'll sit over here. It's your spot, Rita.
Now for it. Yeah, it is. Find the pen. Got one in here somewhere. Here.
Okay, the meeting's in session. Let the record show that Rita showed up finally. I think the first thing I have is this job description for the superintendent. I know a couple of months ago, I sent one out, modified and put into the form that we need to present and to the council and to Wagner and Irwin for their consideration. We asked for some changes along the way and nobody seemed to have any after the last set of changes. And I think that maybe Terry had some things on a version that he was working on. Do you have anything further?
Did you have two versions of yours?
The latest one that I sent out,
Okay.
which includes some changes from Levi and from some other changes.
Levi, did your only changes have to do with the media? The email that you had sent us that had that? Good. So, and that's part of where my confusion came in was, it's been a long time ago, early this year, when I received inputs from, I think Rita sent us something, Levi sent us something, you gave me some. I incorporated all those plus mine into the version that I sent out to the board. And then you sent another version. I don't know if yours was the same as the one I incorporated, or if you had more additional.
No, I didn't have any additional and should have had those. I don't think I included everything that Levi had, because there were a couple things that were probably more committee oriented and not maybe the job of the superintendent. And I mean, we'll address that as we talk more about Levi's committee and how he wants to set that up. But that was the
Okay.
only, there were just some things that were omitted that weren't included. That was the final, which included his stuff.
So I'll take that for action. And if you can send me your latest, I'll pull up what
Okay,
I
yeah,
had
you-
that
you-
incorporated.
You should have the latest. That was
Okay.
the latest one that was out there.
Okay, I'll go back and look at them and double check. But that was my confusion, was I thought I already had all your inputs. And then you sent another one and I didn't have the time to print both of them to do a word for word
Okay,
comparison.
yeah.
So I'll
Take a look
that.
at them because we need to,
Yeah,
keep
and I can
moving
get
on
that by
that.
the end of the week, and I'll get that back to you. So I travel again on Monday, so I'll get that back to you guys by the weekend, and then you'll have time to look at it before the next board meeting.
okay.
Will you
that's-
be here for the next meeting?
Will not be here for the next board meeting.
Okay.
I'll be out next week, and then I travel again the following week, which is a whole nother conversation.
Okay.
Fireworks funds, funding, we just got a check, and I think the ACH from Citizens is in the process of going through now. Have you heard any more about that today, Liz?
I have not. So I submitted it when the actual letter came. I sent it to Debbie and then heard nothing else. And then Terry had sent the email version of it and I forwarded that to Debbie. So I do know
So
she's not
Bill
here
knows
today,
about it
so-
because he got it and wondered what to do with it, so I'm assuming it went upstairs.
Yeah, I exchanged messages with, well, I sent an email to Debbie yesterday. I wanted to find out that she was out of office, which her out of office indicated to reach out to Bobby. So I reached out to Bobby. In the meantime, Debbie responded, surprisingly, and said, hey, I've already kicked it over to the treasurer's office to confirm that it's accurate before we submit it to Citizens. When I reached out to Bill yesterday, of course, yesterday being tax day, for final tax day for everybody, he said we was really busy. He wasn't aware of it at the time, but he would look into it and make sure that it got submitted up. So as of today, I don't know. He just didn't think, he wasn't familiar with it yesterday. He didn't think he would get to it yesterday if he hadn't already seen it. So they should all be tracking just the status. Unfortunately, Citizens cuts checks on Tuesdays. So that's why Latina had reached out, was she knew that we were urgent trying to get the deposit down for Webb's. So she reached out yesterday on our behalf to try to help us meet that deadline. So we may have to wait till next Tuesday to get a check.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think happened there, so that should all be in process then.
If nobody has been to talk to Webb's, I'll go and talk to them.
I think Levi was the last person that had anything to do with them.
Yeah, about 3 weeks ago, I talked to Bill, but I haven't communicated any further.
I think, Terry, you indicated that Henry County Hospital was a potential donor.
Yeah, so the hospital and the bank have both given 10,000 the last 2 years. I guess probably the last 3 years. And so, I've communicated with Lucy at HCH. She pushed it off to the foundation board. Evidently that, I didn't know, that's the challenge. There's multiple bodies within the hospital. She put it on the agenda for the next, foundation board meeting, which is in June. I think it was June 17th is what I looked up. And so, I reached out to the board president there. He didn't anticipate any concerns or issues with them approving that. But we'll have to wait until June 17th to get that, unfortunately.
Which may be a little late.
Well, last year we were still, not surprisingly, I guess, last year we were still collecting checks, up until the first week of July.
Yes.
Which is not good practice, not the way we want to do it going forward, but, what they've done in the past, as we saw, I think Levi's email, that where they had attached, we had a deposit, an initial deposit of 10 or 15,000. We paid the remainder, on the day of or shortly after the event. So I think that's been the precedent, over the past at least few years, that the park has had the responsibility of raising the money.
Yeah.
It has been, but not that we know of anywhere. I think there was some question as to line items and where that might be, but we don't know of any that's left over. We might want to think about that, and I thought I'd go in and talk to the commissioners, and we may want to try to establish a fund and do fundraising for the fireworks year round and have that in a non-reverting fund and not spend all of it. Use it for where we can, when we can. Such as this year, if we don't get an amount that, from the hospital, and we haven't raised enough in other ways, we don't want to commit a $30,000 fireworks show when we don't have any money. So I wonder if we get to, we pretty much know pretty sure we can raise, as of today, probably 15,000. It's a pretty reasonable target. But I don't know if twice that is a reasonable target. And should we target a smaller amount and hope that we get that? We don't have very much time left. And he's going to have to be ordering stuff.
I don't know. So the last year I did take the lead on pushing and doing a lot of fundraising, talking to more groups. Obviously, we don't have a fireworks lead. I just, I took that upon myself last year, and I think that's kind of the way it's rolling this year. McGowan, I think, in the past, they've contributed 5,000. Of course, you've got the bank and the hospital, typically 10, you're at 25. And then, we've got 1,000 from Stainless. We got 2,000 that came in just now. It is hard because we are banking on the graciousness of the businesses in Henry County, and we're doing it at a late point in the game. But at this point in time, I don't know that we've even ordered anything for that matter. As far as Webb's is concerned, I don't know that they've ordered anything to date.
Let it go. Push the button. It's green. Now talk.
I don't know. I know last year they had already ordered or put a down payment on some of it. They had to pay so much to get them ordered, so.
And that was the phone call that I received in February.
That they,
They wanted a deposit,
okay.
and then I've not heard anything from them since.
So you're gonna contact them?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll go there when I leave if there are anybody in. And then I'll go tomorrow if I don't talk to them today.
Well, I think we need to we should have the money in the bank tomorrow. If we can give them something to get something established. I just don't know at this point how much we might have. And do we want to try to commit more and hope that people show up at the last minute, or come up with a number and tell them, this is how many dollars we have to spend?
Yeah, I mean, I fully expect that we'll raise the 35,000. It is a gamble. There is some risk to it. I hope that everybody is out asking businesses. I know you guys see it, because every time that I go to a business, I send the group a message to say, hey, I've solicited this organization for a donation for fireworks. So that way Liz can keep track of who we've contacted and who we have not. So at least you know who I've contacted. I've not seen anybody else other than you indicated Walnut Ridge, that you were going to contact them, and Newcastle Stainless. So we just gotta pursue it.
Okay, well, I guess we'll see what,
We need the little guys. We'll go visit the little guys.
yeah, I've talked to a number of people that will be at that bottom level, and they seem like they're gonna be more committing when you talk to them. Some of them, I think that's where you're gonna get most of your money, is from the smaller donations, which I think that they might have been overlooked to some degree in the past. So we can maybe change that for next year and start a good plan and try to raise money all year.
Yeah, in the past, you know, at one point in time, Citizens did they funded the entire thing, is what I've been told. And then they decided that was becoming too expensive as the price of the fireworks were going up. And so that's when they brought in the hospital and they brought in Goodwin Dodge. So then there was a period of time, I think we saw it even in the agreement that Webb's had shared with us, that those three companies footed the whole bill. So it was awful easy for a long time. Just, you didn't have to do a lot of fundraising. It was assumed that those three organizations would contribute the funds. Now that dynamic has changed slightly. Those companies are still giving. They're just not giving as much. And I'm just now, so I have kept a list of the ones that I've contacted, and now I'm going back. So I gave them letters, gave them an opportunity to read it. Now I'm circling back with them to close the loop. McGowan and others would be included. So
Yeah,
hopefully we
that's
can
what
get
I've
that.
done, is I've given the letters out to people and even copied some more and gave those out too. And now I'm reaching back out to them to see what
Good.
their decision is.
Good.
Some of them will do something, I'm sure, and some of them won't.
Yeah, that's the hard part, is the ones that just don't respond. They don't reach out. And if you can let us know if any of them contact you, because that's my fear, is, like I sent an email to Joe Smith at Hubler today. And my fear was, he's already reached out and said, yeah, I'll commit. And now I'm hitting him up with an email going, hey, I'm gonna contribute. I don't want it to look like we're not communicating across the team.
And
Well,
and-
I think that could happen anyway. They're just gonna say, well, I already talked to Terry.
And you can have them and tell them when you send the email, when it's convenient for you to send it, to call me in the office. That way I can take the payment.
Yeah, and the letter, of course, says that at
Yes.
the very end, to reach out to your office.
You can remind them
Yeah.
again, so.
Okay.
Well, the other thing we might want to consider, and we'll consider that, next year is like the 100th anniversary of the fireworks event. If we do a downsized event this year, even intentionally, if we can keep whatever monies we raise and we don't use all of it, kind of gives us a seed money for next year, and then really promote and really try to be active and push the fact that it's the 100th anniversary of the show, do a really big show next year.
Yeah, I think next year's gotta be a big deal. Yeah, I agree.
I know you mentioned McGowan. Did you already talk to them, or are you still planning to?
So I stopped in there and dropped off a letter. They received it and they were like, oh yeah, we were expecting this, because they do contribute, or at least they have contributed the last few years. When I gave it to the lady at the front desk, it was as if they were just waiting for us to reach out. So yeah, I've just got to follow up with them. I'll follow up with them after I get done with the meeting. The other thing that I've tried to assure all of them, and we tried to push it last year. So some of the feedback that I got after the first year that we did the fundraising for the fireworks was, there was a perception, by some of the contributors that there wasn't enough, marketing and advertising for their contribution to make it feel like a positive return on investment. So last year, we upped that. We put banners out 2 weeks prior to the event. We left them out for a week post-event, those kind of things. And so one of the things I've tried to reassure all of the contributors is that if you do donate, that we will go above and beyond to make sure that your contributions are acknowledged and advertised sufficiently so that they'll want to do it. You know, my hope is that we put enough into the advertising for them that it's visible enough, which they felt like last year was a significant increase. They were happy with last year. We got positive feedback. But, you know, my hope is that organizations will come to us and go, hey, I want to contribute. Like when you drive down Main Street and you see all the signs on the Little League fences and everything, their names are plastered all over and they get recognition every time somebody steps into the field, trying to increase it to where it'll feel the same way for contributors that they want to be they want to be partners in this effort.
To that end, I think Levi probably, are you working on that program, that promotion program for the contributors? I mean, you pretty much know what you want to do. You know each one of those sections and what we're supposed to do for these people that do contribute.
As far as banners,
Yeah, do you have some idea as to how you're going to do that? What copy you want to use, et cetera, et cetera? All we have to do is plug in the names.
not particularly. We do have the tier page that I was gonna go off of for that, and then however we did it in the past, probably redo that. One thing that I would love to do, possibly an advertisement or just something to do. We have discussed in the past that we can't remember what they're called, but we got one of those spray painter lines that you kind of run and put a spray paint can in there. If we wanted to use something like that to do some kind of spray painted advertisement for businesses in the future, that could be a great opportunity there. Or we could just put a big American flag on the side of the hill as well.
I know last year, and I don't know if we can track it down, superintendent put together a information sheet, I think, for the people that showed up, drove in for the event. And on that paper, it also listed contributors too. And that was something that as they came through, they, you know, for parking, whatever, they handed those out at some locations so that people would also have, you know, something in hand to show who contributed and made that possible. I don't recall having a copy of it, but I know that was something that was discussed and printed. I'd have to look through some emails and see if there was an early version generated, but that's something else as well.
Yeah, I think some of that we're just going to have to recreate because if it was on the superintendent's laptop, we don't have access to that. And there's very little in files in the offices. We couldn't find anything much about anything.
Okay, yeah. And that's an opportunity because you have such a big turnout to be able to, you know, put an annual calendar on there or something like that, make it something more valuable. And oh, by the way, here's the folks that made this event possible today. So we can take a look at that. I can help with that with Levi.
We can also probably start putting something on the Facebook page about, hey, it's 4th of July, plan to come here.
Yeah, that's definitely something we can do. Even as far as an advertisement for the businesses, we can get that up on our Facebook page here's all the sponsors we had. Or even just a sponsored week, do weeks of different businesses that did sponsor.
Yeah, I think if we do an early commit, here's the organizations that have committed funds, that'll prompt others to, you know, they'll see that the advertisement's starting to go out and they're not on the list. You know, that would be the hope, is that they see that opportunity.
Yeah, we can go and get started on that as we get the money in.
Why don't we plan on starting that next week then?
Sounds good.
And I'll get you the list of what I have.
Anything else on the fireworks? I see Mr. Peckinpah happens to be here today, so I'll ask him. We have a request from the 4-H that they want the cannon that we have stored out there undercover. They need the use of that building. Do you care if we move the cannon over to the garage behind the superintendent's house?
Part of the reason I'm here is to, I know you can't vote, but my feeling was the cannon back together and storing it inside the museum until you vote and decide what you're going to do would not be negative to anybody.
Oh, I think that'd be a great idea. Can you have that done by Memorial Day?
That was my plan.
Okay, do it.
I have a suggestion that someone told me about. Is taking the cannon outside in the spring, summer, and fall, and storing it in the winter in the museum.
Okay, we can kind of hold that for discussion maybe at the meeting.
Okay?
I thought of that too.
You, did you disperse that, paperwork I gave you to the rest of the board? Okay.
Yeah, if you guys can put that together and put it inside, it would save us trying to move it
Mhm.
anytime.
No use moving it twice.
Exactly. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So if you want to do that, go ahead.
I can get that done. Now, as far as the cost, you haven't seen that yet, have you, Rita? Or maybe nobody else has.
No,
To put in the viewing window,
Discuss that.
it'd be $3,840, including changing springs and putting in two sections of window. That should allow anybody to see the cannon sitting in the museum right behind the door anytime they want to walk up there. We will light it 24/7.
Is that a rolling type door? To where you can take it in and out?
Yes. If we needed to move it in and out, and obviously if we want to move the two Jeeps, we'll have to move it in and out to get them by. But, the museum board is still 100% on board to have it in the museum. Anything else about the cannon?
No, I don't have anything. That's pretty much all I had. Liz, did you have anything?
I did. So I talked to, Lee Walker. Our, trash bill, our contract is getting renewed. And he said there was a $10 increase and it's changing. So it goes from now until December, and then in January, it will come back up again. So, well, it will change in January, so it will have to be renewed in January. And so, I wasn't aware of the process until he and I spoke. So, the contract will be, handed off to, I guess Joel will do the contract, and then I will get it to you guys for approval. So I'm just letting you guys be aware of that. I'm also letting you guys know that there's a couple things. The new clutch cable that Jason put in on the mower, the mower is not working correctly, so it needs to be looked at. So I guess I need permission to call Dennis Equipment or somewhere to have them look at it. Okay. So that needs to be done. I also spoke to Chamber of Commerce today, and I've talked to you guys several times. I feel that we should join the Chamber of Commerce. There's several reasons why, but because the Chamber of Commerce has a lot of helpful information and in the future, it would be helpful to have the support from the Chamber of Commerce for things like the fireworks fund and knowing which local businesses to go to and that type of thing. She presented an idea right now that if we would like to kind of partner together, that they have several things that they need reservations for, and that she would give us the benefits of the Chamber of Commerce if we would like to do something like that.
What does that mean, the benefits of the Chamber? She would give us the benefits of the.
So that means like going to their trainings or offering us like the benefits that they offer their members, like advertising and helpful things like that. So,
Latina brought that up as a representative of Citizen State Bank. She's the one that I work through for the funds for the fireworks each year. And she advocates on our behalf. She's also on the board for the chamber. And her and I were talking about it because she talked about the opportunity for the chamber to send out an email burst or whatever it is that they have. And I said, I was told at one point in time that we were members of the chamber, paying members of the chamber. We're not anymore. I don't know when that decision was made, but simultaneously I said, it seems odd that an extension of the county government would be a paying member of the chamber. It'd be like the sheriff's office saying, hey, I want to be, are there some others within the county that do that?
They're not part of the county, so they should, like the day, so they will give all the county offices and departments free membership.
Okay.
The Chamber of Commerce is not part of any government entity at all.
Yeah, but I wasn't sure if there was a precedent. Obviously, the park had previously set the precedent by being a paying member of the chamber. It just seemed odd for a government entity to do that.
How much is
you don't
their
think so?
membership?
It's just a membership.
I think it's like $125.
Like, yeah, it's cheap. I'm a member, my business is a member of the chamber. I pay less than $200 a year.
Yeah, I
to
knew
be
it
a-
wasn't
Now,
much.
if you want to be a bronze sponsor or gold sponsor or platinum sponsor, it costs quite a bit more, but yeah, they're not part of the county, so I don't know why they would agree or be compelled to give a county department free membership.
Yeah.
Now, I don't see why they could promote. I'm not saying that,
Sure,
different things, but typically they promote their members.
folks that are paying.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I thought it was worth a discussion because I hadn't thought about it from that perspective.
The worst thing anybody's ever going to tell you is no. So, I mean, yeah, it's worth a discussion.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Have we been a part of the chamber before?
Yeah, I know there were, I don't know if those former board members, whether or not you recall a period of time where we were.
No,
I
I
was
think it was
told-
before my time.
Okay. I was told by the chamber that we were a paying member at one
I-
point and then we
and-
stopped.
They were.
I thought when I first hired in, because the superintendent was up for a nomination or something like that, but I thought at that point that we were members. of the
I know
chamber.
they were at one point. I don't know why it was discontinued. It's not that expensive.
I
Yeah,
don't know.
I don't
I
think
think-
you have to be a member of the chamber to be nominated for those awards either.
Right, no,
So,
but I just assumed
Yeah,
when I first hired in that that was the case, but
so maybe that's a
Well,
point that we
can
bring up.
circulate that information between board members and maybe take action at an
Yeah.
upcoming meeting and figure out what to do.
Can you get the details on what the membership costs and the benefits
Absolutely.
and that kind of thing? And
Yeah.
at least the board would have something tangible then to make a decision
Right.
based on what's the
well,
return.
and I just felt like it was, because they do promote their members, that I feel like that would be a good move, especially for like fireworks and that type of thing for fundraising for the park, that, that they would.
Yeah, I agree. And right now they don't host any events at the park any longer,
Right.
partially because of board decisions as to whether to charge or not. They go to REMC and they use the community room, which is
Right.
free.
Right,
And so
Yeah.
that's at least a point of consideration as well.
right. So, I spoke to her today and and they're having a state representative forum or something, and they needed the Smith building. So, I did use the non-for-profit status for that.
So they're coming back.
So they are,
Good.
and it's building bridges.
Yeah, it's a
It's-
good partnership.
Yes, it is. And it's building bridges. And
I agree.
so, next item I have, 4th of July. Again. I spoke to Sound Investments, about the timeframes and things
I
that. the
can't
house-
hear you.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I spoke to Carl from Sound Investments about the discussion had at the last meeting for House of Prayer. He's okay with doing a 2-hour time frame. He's not okay with the 6 to 8 p.m. time frame. The 6 to 8 time frame for him is a busy time frame because that's when the last minute people are arriving, and he's prepping the music, getting them hyped up for the actual fireworks. He's not opposed to them playing. He did say he would prefer an earlier time frame, maybe like 3 to 5, earlier in the day, because it's not as chaotic at that 6 to 8 time frame. So he is okay with that.
Okay, sounds good. I could communicate with the house prayer and see if that time works for them.
Okay.
Obviously, I didn't catch the last meeting as far as the discussion. Did we put them up on Cardinal Field last year?
So
where they-
they were given the option of Cardinal Field. Well, the first year that I was at the 4th, they were given the option of Cardinal Field or the shelter house. And they wanted to be down
Right.
in the area, in the soccer field area. So this year they decided they wanted it on the south side, on the farther
far
south.
south end.
Yes, on the farther south end. And Carl did specify that there is no electricity out there. So whatever equipment they use, they just have to be aware that there's no electricity out there, because he is bringing his own generator, because the shelter that he uses, there's no electricity out there either. So he's using his generators for his things.
So we're trying to deconflict time. Is that what it is? So they're
Uh,
not
they've-
stepping on
they've
each
re-
other in that.
Right. Well,
vicinity.
they've requested to play music, and it was a thing of asking if he was okay with that or
Yeah,
not. And
that's what I'm
just
saying.
yeah. So
But you're trying right now to keep both of them from playing at the same time.
right,
Yeah.
basically. So basically, because when Carl does it, he starts early in the morning and goes until after the fireworks.
Yeah.
And so this kind of gives him a little break
Okay.
in
Okay.
between.
Okay. Thanks.
Let's see what mode.
What's the name of his business again?
Sound Investments of Central Indiana. Or of East Central Indiana. It's on Facebook. That's all I have.
Have we looked back at how we executed the July 4th last year? Where we had parking, where we had restrictions, where we had people, that kind of thing
We're still going through that. Yeah.
I wasn't sure if we had. any
Yeah, I
lessons
just got,
learned.
I can't think of his name, the man that takes the aerial shots with his drone.
Yeah.
Yes. So he came in and he took aerial shots of the soccer field for me. So I'll be mapping all of that out best as I can recollect from last year. So I agree with the traffic areas are, since they're so close, it is very hectic, and people trying to come into the park, we have kids crossing the street, people directing traffic. It's a nightmare. So I don't know how we can kind of fix all of that, I need to reach out to, the sheriff's department and see if we can't come up with some sort of plan for that. Or
I think
if,
part of it's just controlled chaos at that.
Eh,
point in
e-
time, right? Going from
exactly.
Both directions. on
And,
both
and
sides.
if somebody would like
It's-
to help me with,
Yeah, it's gonna
figure that
be-
out.
I'm working on that, and I'm working with Corey Jester too at EMA
Mhm.
to maybe develop a little bit better plan.
Okay,
We may talk to the commissioners about 100 and maybe changing some traffic flow on that during the event time and coming up with a better plan to get traffic into and out of the parking area.
And I don't recall, did we have an EMS unit there on site last year during the event? I couldn't recall.
Over the years, there've been different organizations doing different things out there. So we're in the process of trying to identify who wants to come out there this year. We're gonna reach out to the city as well and see if they can provide some manpower and some equipment.
On that, I know it's been brought up before, but probably worth being brought up again. Do we want to do any kind of fee for parking in that soccer field? Because we could still have people park anywhere else in the park and walk there, but for parking just in the soccer field, if we were to charge, say even $5 per car, that wouldn't be too much for most people, and that would really raise a good amount for next year.
How much was collected in parking last year?
We've never done it for parking for the 4th of July.
I-
Right.
We
Just
did it
by
for the-
donation.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
we
what-
only
what
did
do you-
it for,
The
How much
eclipse.
was raised during the equip? I know there wasn't done 4th of July.
The
How much
eclipse.
was raised for the,
I'm not aware of that number. I do know that we charged $15 per vehicle.
I believe it was between 2,000 and 3,000, maybe around the 3,000 mark that we got.
Right,
that's
I
what I
was
was
not
thinking.
I was not privy to that information.
And that may
so-
have been after fees of any kind of setup or anything that we rented as well.
I know we got a bunch of backlash online for charging even for the eclipse. The fact that, we had guests from out of town, out of state, those kind of things, and we were welcoming them to our county, our free county park and charging them to pay. I think there was a small group of folks that raised a concern about it. Obviously, this is heavily county attended, so at least worth consideration, all the locals. Of course, now it's gotten to the point to where, people park up and down, all the way into Northfield and other facilities, other parking lots, all the way up and down along 3, so.
well, maybe we, instead of charging for parking, we just ask for donations towards next year's fireworks. If they want to donate, they donate. If
And-
they
and
don't
we-
want to donate, they don't have to.
Yeah, and
No
we did that
problem.
last year at the gate, asking for donations, and some people did, some people didn't.
Yeah,
So,
I don't even think, we don't need to discuss it. It's not something we normally do unless we feel like we have to, but I don't think we have to do that.
No, I think donations are a good idea. I mean, those that see the contributions of the park and hosting, and they see the need to continue, to support it. I think those that feel led to donate would. I think we would.
I
it'd
think
be
we could
sticking
have
charge.
Liz dressed up as a giant firecracker going around raising money.
listen, I'm already doing the duck for Memorial Day, okay?
It's like the Liberty
So-
Insurance, the Statue of Liberty, for tax time when they're out walking around. You can get her one of those.
We could use the part of the donations to repair the field if there's any damage to it and stuff too.
I just hate if we were to start charging, people choose to go elsewhere, and I'd hate to do that. Kind of like we saw with the
Well, it's
Eclipse,
on-
people started parking elsewhere if they knew that they were gonna have to pay.
Well,
even if
and
it's
as they
5,
were
10
coming
minutes.
through the main gate, we were telling them, to be in the park, you have to pay. And I got talked to not so nicely by this fisherman who was trying to get in. So it was a whole thing, but anybody who came in the park that day had to pay.
Yeah.
And then they were given a ticket. So then that way they could come and go as they pleased. But it also needs looked at, on the 4th of July, we had like an influx of like golf carts and different things. And honestly, the golf carts should be restricted to like,
In the park.
the park employees or like, sheriff's department, police department, that type of thing in case there's an emergency or something. But we've just got people coming from wherever on their golf cart because they couldn't get their car in there.
Well, maybe we can just have a golf cart designated parking area.
There we go.
Because if they're allowed to
They
drive
don't
their golf
cart in
cart
if-
down the road, we can't really tell them they can't drive the golf cart into there.
So, but,
That's, if everybody brought a golf cart, we wouldn't have to worry about the grass getting torn up or the
Right.
space.
Put 'em in the trailer.
and the Saddle Club does have, a horse show that weekend. So,
I was just getting ready to ask about that.
yes, they do. So,
What day does the 4th land on this year?
I think it's a Friday.
It is a Friday.
It's a Friday. And then our rain, you weren't here for that. Our makeup date is the 6th in case it rains.
So do they, the Saddle Club, do they start their events on Saturday or do they?
So they, a lot of their events, they start coming in on Friday.
I don't think we've had that competition in the last couple of years as
They,
far as,
they were there last year.
were they?
Yes.
Okay. And we
Do
didn't
they have events on the weekend of the 4th?
Mhm.
Do they? Of course they do.
Any other long lead item concerns, issues that you have as far as prep?
It's just the amount of vendors that I've gotta do my spreadsheet for that I've not had a chance to. I just keep writing, I have
Oh, that-
a notebook like this and I just keep writing their names in, and I'm like, one
So
of
we
these
do
days I'll
already
get it on my
have
spreadsheet.
some
Yes.
vendors signed up.
So, in December, an email went out by the superintendent to vendors. And so certain vendors were offered,
I remember the email. Okay.
yes, so, 90% of those vendors have chosen the 4th of July. So
Good.
it's just a matter
Good.
of compiling that list and double checking with everyone. So,
And confirming locations, that kind of. thing.
yes.
Okay.
So, and we're gonna have an influx of, food trucks, which I find it's very amazing. So, because last year we were scheduled to have a lot of food trucks and then the rain hit and then it was rescheduled. And then because of the rescheduling, a lot of people were already committed to different places. So we're scheduled to have quite a few food trucks. So there will be a lot of food options.
Would we be putting those on the soccer field then?
As far as, yes, it's just a location thing. Because if you remember correctly, last year we had like the vendors in the middle. We had one whole section in the middle and it was vendors and then like food trucks throughout. So now it's kind of a issue trying to figure out the best places to put everyone, because you don't want all the food trucks all in one line. So,
Why not?
I've been to a lot of food,
Mm-hmm.
I've been to a lot of food truck events and they're all in a line.
so I'm okay with them
I
being
think,
in
I
line.
think we
That's
can
just,
look at maybe put them in, at least not all in a line, maybe in a U or something where
Right.
people can, if it's kind of like a food court, people can go in there and they go, well, I want one of those and one of those,
Right.
and one of those, rather than having to walk way down there for that one. That way, everybody's kind of on the same playing field as being exposed to your potential customer. So I think they need to all be in one place. And we'll look at that as we know roughly how much area we have to deal with.
I'd anticipate this would be a prime topic for the work session in the middle of June, that we'd walk through the plan.
Yeah, I think we'll have the plan all sketched out by then. How it's gonna work.
It's just things that I'm thinking of at the moment, so.
What about putting the food trucks over around the pond?
I've been thinking about that. We've talked
Yeah.
about that a little bit.
Don't want to do that?
Well, I would kind of like to do that, but I don't know what other people think, but I think it'd be a good idea. I don't know if that would be too much of a walk for the people that are coming to the park to see the fireworks. If they're gonna go over there,
Well, it's boring until the fireworks, so they can walk around and get food and,
well, that'll be one of the plans. There'll be 2 or 3 layouts suggested, and we'll make a decision as to which one we're gonna go with that makes the most sense.
Yeah, I like putting them close to the lake. I mean, that amplifies the work that we've done over the last year. And
See, and I think originally
theme.
last year we were thinking something like that, but then they started digging and we thought it wouldn't smell the greatest. So it wouldn't be appetizing with food trucks right there. So,
I know a handful of years ago, I remember that did happen maybe a couple times that where the vendors were around the ponds, and I always like that layout myself. That along with if we put bounce houses, anything of that nature out there, that would really drive families to go and spend more time around our ponds.
Anything else, Terry? Levi?
Nothing more on that topic, at least.
What else you got?
I do have a couple quick things here. We met with the vending vault over at the park to look for a location for the vending machine. And one of the spots that was pointed out that I think we've settled on is kind of on the north side of the parking for the Smith Building. There's a light post there, or electric post at least. And just next to that, we think that would be a good location to put in a half drinks, half snack shack right there for a vending machine. And that would give great location for 4-H, but then also anything going on in the Smith Building. It's just a quick walk right outside.
You weren't at the last meeting when that was discussed, were you? Did you get the proposal that Levi sent out? You can take that and read it if you want. We'll take action at the next meeting, I think. We need to have Joel take a look at the contract, see how that all works out. So let's get it to him.
Along with that, we also need to discuss about the cameras in that area. If that's the area that's chosen, we have 2 cameras facing that area, but they are not currently working.
Yeah, we know what to do with this.
Yes.
There has to be some changes before those will work.
Okay.
So I'm just curious, as I'm skimming through it, was there some discussion about building some kind of a shelter to, are these
So
vending machines open?
we
to
already
whatever?
have the one that where the 4-way is, there's that little building. There apparently used to be something in there, and now that building is just there. So our discussion kind of ended up with maybe, because I feel like the grounds crew were the ones that made that. And I
Yeah.
feel like as long as they have dimensions, they could build something like that for that area and paint it and put it up there.
So the thought is the park would build a shelter to put it in.
Or expand the current shelter that we
Right.
have there.
Yeah.
And then we would move it over to the new location.
Mhm.
Though the shelter that was used for that in the past, we might be able to move it and use it.
I didn't know if that was
Mhm.
post in the
Yeah.
ground like a.
Yeah, we
barn
just
type
need
structure
to
or not.
measure, because Levi sent me the measurements and things.
It
before the
is, it
meeting.
appears to be, but I don't,
Where
It-
there's a will, there's a
it
way.
might just be stuck in the ground.
Okay, thanks. So they would, I guess, and I'll read through the contract, but just in a nutshell, they would maintain, they would take, the park would have no responsibility for the vending machines above and beyond providing a shelter.
That's
Would
right,
agree with
yeah. All that would fall on us is if there is any vandalism or if it's empty, we would just be responsible for letting them know.
Okay, thanks.
And then one other item I have here was to add a moment of prayer before our main meetings. I know that's something that I believe has been a thing in the past. I don't know for what reason that stopped, but that's also held at all our county level meetings. So to kind of replace our moment of silence we do after the pledge too.
Would you
moment of
like
prayer.
to be designated?
I'd be happy to. And I don't know if that's something we need to vote on or if that's just added to the itinerary, but just to bring it to the board.
Almost.
Is that something we'd have to vote on, you think? President?
I wouldn't think so. We don't have a procedural rules that we'd have to stick any to. So
Think
if we
it would
want to
be
do that,
nice.
we can include that in our itinerary. You have anything, Rita?
Nope.
Sheldon, I see you showed up. You got anything new?
Sure, quite a bit. Last March or April, we started the pond project. And we're still waiting to get the sod laid. I talked to Tom at Ross Lawns yesterday, and he intended to be out there today to get it prepared so they could possibly get it a couple days this week to get going on that. So we have to make sure we get a water boy lined up. So when they lay that sod, it can get watered like it should be. The other thing, of course, we talked about and the board considered it and already approved, repaving the pathway across the dam. And I'm going to get a hold of Fred. I don't think he's been out there, has he, Liz? Has Fred been out there to repave or anything, to do any work?
Nobody has come into my office.
Okay.
If they don't come into my office, I don't know that they're there.
Okay.
Because if I'm passing through the park, all I see are random vehicles. If they stop in and say, hey, I'm from blah, 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 I'm here. As long as I know, then that way I can report back to you guys, hey, they're here.
Okay, well, I can check with him. That's the two things that need to be done to complete that project. And as I think I've talked to the board about a couple other projects that there hasn't been any funding for them, but one is the accent lighting around the pond. I've got 6 or 7 people that's told me, and I don't know, I haven't got the money for that, but they'll sponsor a poll. But I have to find out how much that is before I'd ask them. But I'm in the process of talking to different people about donating for that, and I just need to make sure and the board knows we're doing this, but how we can, if they say they want to donate for the lighting project, how does that work? When you get online, I know I've talked to Levi in September about this, but I'm lining myself up with a couple of groups. I know I can get money out of them. We need to get about $30,000 as a goal. My lighting engineer and myself, we've come up with that number, and hopefully it would come in at less. But and that would just be a request for proposals. You don't need to have advertise for a contract, this and that, just advertise for proposals, but you got to have it written up technically correct. And that's where the lighting engineer I've worked with comes in, because I can't do it. and he can, and he's been very good. This is something you guys need to make people aware of. They're getting consultant work for nothing. And this lighting engineer has worked with me for nothing, and he's a professional. He lives in Carmel. He does schools. He does factories or did, and he's enthusiastic about this. He's in fact, he's one of them that said he'd put the pressure on another fellow to sponsor a poll. So I said, that's great. I'm going to sponsor a poll. But we got to find out, we got to get a little more money. I can't expect people just to pay for the entire cost just by sponsoring a poll. Right now, and this would all come to the board before we'd ever do anything, is the details. The poles will more than likely be 16 feet, 4x4 square. And there's different colors, but the one that appealed, I think, to most people I've talked to was the brown bronze. It sounded more like park color. But that's up for discussion. I mean, if you want a black pole instead of that, that's up to the board, of course, or will be. And then for some sponsor, we need to put a brass little tag or something on these poles. And if you have a 4-inch pole, you could put a 3-inch black little thing and put the Terry McCall family, for example. I think that would look good on there.
No pressure.
But anyway, that's the kind of approach we're doing here. And I'm set up to talk to some people who I think have some money. But I just want to make sure with Levi and September working here that we're going to get, how do you donate for this project? And just call it lighting the pond or the park. We'll figure out some verbiage. But that's what that's about. And I think it'll be well received because you're talking about then people could walk out there at night and feel comfortable. And like we were talking, I've talked to Greg York, different people. Of course, parks are important to people. They move to community because they like the parks, they like the trails. We have Westwood Park, we have Summit Lake, and it's a factor to sell the community on, and the Chamber of Commerce should be selling the park. We shouldn't be worried about us being members necessarily. They ought to be selling that park because that's a very important part of a community. And I think if you promote it, if you have projects out there that people can look at, not just say, well, give us some money for the park. Well, what's it for? Well, we got a lot of things it could be for. It can be for this project, it can be for roads, it can be for a lot of things. So the other project, as you know, we talked about a replica of a bridge. Jim Ward's working feverishly on that one. He got into the history of that, and him and I met the other day, and he's into it. He's really liking this thing, and I applaud him for as much as he'll do. And eventually we'll come up with a budget price for that, which is going to be quite a bit more than a lighting project, I'm sure. But it's very interesting. I think people like it that I've shown his replica or his rendition of. They all like that. They think it's a great thing to do. So that's the two things I'm working on. It's like I said, it's kind of thing, if you can just get some money to build it, you don't have to worry about all this other stuff with the consultant firm writing a plan and then coming back 5 years later and revising the plan. I'm not doing that. I'm too old for that. So I want it done, and it'll get done if I have anything to say about it. So that's where I'm at with a couple of things. And I think it's real positive, the people, at least that I've talked to, that those are two things that would really go over well out there. And I'm all for it, and I think we can make it happen. We just go after it, and things will happen. So that's where we are, but I would like to get And I'm sure September, as chairman of the committee for the pond project, we'd like to get it done. And I'd like to get it done. But I want to get that sod down, and it's just been an unusual spring with a lot of rain. And I told them, when the farmers start planting corn, then you can get out there and get it done. And that's just what's happening. So, any questions the board might have about if you want me to do anything differently, slow down, quit, whatever you want, let me know.
Find the money. We have purchased a 2-inch input-output trash pump, gasoline powered. We're getting fittings for that so we can water. Did they have a chance to go look for fittings today?
I sent the text and I have not heard yet,
Yeah,
but
that was late in the day, so.
well, it was right at lunchtime, so I sent the text after lunch, go and do that, and I'd not heard anything, so I should know something at least by tomorrow.
Well, Tom, I was thinking you and Tony had talked about it. So where are you on it? The watering system?
Yeah, we're just getting the fittings for the hose.
Okay, so you've got, if they start laying at the end of the week,
Yeah.
we're ready to go.
Yeah,
Okay.
we should, we
Well, I told
we
Tom,
might even gotten the fittings this afternoon. They were out looking for them.
I told Tom of Ross, I said, go ahead because we'll get it watered. And I hope I told him the truth.
Everybody ran out of fittings. After the last rain, everybody went out and bought pumps and hoses and fittings.
Yeah.
I forgot. September and I met with Helen about the island, and we gave her okay for her to go ahead and make the choice on the plants and the seeds for the island instead of,
We already had that list in that account. The money, we
Mm.
already had a quote and a list of plans.
okay. Did that come from Helen or somebody else?
That came from Helen. Yeah, it was
Okay.
at a meeting. I forget when that was now.
It's been a
Go back and
while.
look. I'd have to go back and look at the minutes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we're starting to work on that and a fence to put around it so the little duckies don't eat everything until they get bigger. We have a duck that's got a nest out there. Have they hatched yet?
Not yet, due next week. Also, regarding Helen, she has asked us to maybe think about more do not mow signs. And also for us to maybe think about making a little map of the areas for the guys so that they know where they cannot mow. Because, first mowing season and we got some things mowed down that shouldn't have been mowed.
And the email that she sent, I gave it to the guys, and there was one specific area that she said, you can mow it, just not mow it a lot.
Mhm.
And so that was the first time it was mowed, and then she's mad because we're mowing it. So I still feel like it needs to be marked.
Well, I'll
where-
go
where
out
She wants us.
I'll get
where she
online.
wants it.
and order some signs. Don't mow.
Yeah, those are.
And we can put those around.
And she's also asked that maybe we put, some not concrete, but, some pavers where the little bridge is by the seep so that people won't walk on the vegetation, but they'll walk on the pavers instead to the bridge. So she asked if we would maybe look into that too. And I counted for bigger pavers, it would probably be about 10 of them, but for the smaller ones, about 17.
I do like the idea of doing the map at some point. I don't know who do we talk to get that developed, but if we could get a good
Oh, that's.
whole
that-
area.
That's pretty
Yeah.
easy. We can get
Yeah, maybe
I'll-
Angie.
I'll talk to Angie and see if
Yeah.
I can get an aerial on a,
Mhm.
we can maybe use the large format plotter and get an aerial and then,
Yeah, it'd be a lot easier for the guys to know
Yep.
exactly where they should mow than having the signs.
we'll go look at how many pavers we might need and if we need to repair anything under that. You don't want the pavers sinking into oblivion.
Yeah.
I wanted to let you know the plan right now, and I think it'll be the final one. There'll be 8 poles. Be spaced. We were looking at how the light shines from the lighting that would be used, the LEDs. And so we'll space them around the whole perimeter, but 8 poles will do it. And the discussion was, I told you maybe we did look into solar, but it's kind of been set aside and it's easier, I guess, just to connect it to the electric power. Because we have probably at least 3 places to connect out there, we can get by with 110 volts because each LED light only uses 80 to 100 watts. So that's a big light bulb in your house. So that's low power. They won't take a lot of power. And just a few little details. So quick people have questions and that's fine. We'll try to answer them. And like I said, eventually here, when we know we can get some money coming in, we've got about 3,000 committed now, as I understand from the Friends of the Park, for this project. Or that's what I was told. And so we'll continue to work, try to get people to donate and like to see them in pretty quick.
Did you see Jerry Cash's notification on the paint project for the shelter house for finishing it? Okay, so we still have money. We're
I think
holding,
we've got like $4,000 or so.
right. I just wanted to know if anybody'd made any decisions about that yet. If not, that's fine, but
We'd go to take action on that at a regular. meeting.
okay. Also, if you want to get contributions for these polls, you can have to run it through the Friends, just like the $3,000 grant is sitting there already. Wouldn't be a problem.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Anybody have anything else? I'll entertain the motion to end this meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Motion